Hello, I'm Nick and I'll be walking through one of my projects. So this is an early version of a virtual assistant I made in Python. So it records audio, listening for certain commands, and will carry them out, responding via voice. So the libraries used, which have to be installed using pip, are BS4 for Beautiful Soup, speech recognition, and pyttsx3, which we will use later. So the first aspect of this project is the speech recognition code. So first we declare a recognizer to carry out the changes we will make to the audio it hears, and we will assign this value as R. So we're going to create the function record text, which will contain this while loop to constantly listen for audio while this function is carried out. Now using the microphone, which which you should have on your computer, and this program will not work if you do not have one. So this will just use the basic microphone, the one selected. So it will listen for audio, which we will define as source 2, and we can use the recognizer to remove any ambient noise to make the audio clearer for the computer. We can then print I'm listening so that the user knows that it's being recorded, and we can record this audio as audio 2 when the recognizer listens for it. So now we have this audio file, but we need to convert that to string. So we use recognize Google and use Google software to convert this audio into string, which we can use as text. Now every iteration of this loop, it will attempt to translate this audio file into a string. So we can create a variable to store this recording, so we can say command equals record text, and then we can break that up even further as words equals command.split space to store as an array of every single word in the command. Now the first thing I'm going to explain is a thing called web scraping, and we're going to use web scraping as a way of asking this virtual assistant to research something for you, to say tell me about sharks. Web scraping is getting a URL of a website and extracting the data from its HTML format. Now if we go into a separate file I made, it uses the BS4 and Beautiful Soup module and the request module. Here is a function called scrape to do this for the website Wikipedia. I'm using Wikipedia as a source for my information, as it's formatted the same for every single page, and there's a lot of pages, so lots of requests that the user will be able to make, will be able to find, and supplied with information. So here in this page to scrape, we can store the response of a request to get the information from this URL. So this domain is imported from the command, which we'll talk about a bit later. So it will go to this URL and get all the information out of it. So then we move on to this variable called soup, which uses the Beautiful Soup function to navigate through HTML structures using this built-in function called parser, which helps it traverse these HTML structures. We can use this parser to access the text from the response of the URL. We can create an array called paragraphs to store this information, which is stored in this variable called soup. So we iterate for every paragraph in soup.selectP. Now HTML uses tags, and if we look at this Wikipedia page, so here's the sharks, if I right click on the text and inspect it, it will bring me right to where this information is stored. So we can see that this is in div, this is the whole section highlighted, then we can go down and it's stored as P. Now P stands for paragraph and is used to separate information. So we know that all the information we want is in P. So we can go and look at our content from the text and select only the P. So we can add all these paragraphs and get the text out of them, because if we didn't get the text then it would just be this long chain describing, it's like the ID, it will give us the ID of the paragraph rather than the text itself. So then you get the paragraph's text and store it in paragraphs. We will then only return paragraph 1 because there's a little bit of paragraph beforehand which is useless to us as we want the first main paragraph. So this is why we use the second in the array to give which will be the brief overview of the request. Going back to the main code, we must tell the computer what command causes this web scraping. So we'll look at this array of words, and if they're in the correct order of tell me about, then we know that the user wants to research something. We also know that the words being followed by about is what the user wants to know about. We can create an empty listicle query which will store the words which will be queried. So for I in words, if the word is after about, we can add it to query and make sure it's in the capital form of title. So now we can store the query as the domain, which we saw earlier. So if a query is more than one word, we'll have to say for every word in query, we'll add it to the domain plus an underscore. This is because you can't have spaces in URLs, so it will use an underscore to separate the words. And if it's only one word, domain will just be query 0. Now the domain is domain.replace space with underscore just in case there are any, and then it will go to this text-to-speech scrape domain. So this scrape links to the web scraper file here with this scrape here. So earlier we had to go from web scraper, import all, which is just importing all the functions in here, and then I've got a second file called voice where we have this function called text-to-speech. Now this file uses the module pyttsx3, which just allows you to have an engine to do things in Python. So with the engine we can initiate it, and we can control how fast it says by this value here. So mine's at 170. We can control its volume, and then we can tell it to save a text. So once it says the text, it will run and then wait to finish speaking, and then after that the program will close. So if we put this all together, I'll run the code. Tell me about sharks.
Sharks are a group of elasmobranch fish characterized by a cartilaginous skeleton, 5 to 7 gill slits on the sides of the head, and pectoral fins.
I'm just going to stop that. But as you can see, here it's the same paragraph that is on the Wikipedia website. To recap, we gave the computer a command to tell us about sharks. It then looked at the Wikipedia page involving sharks, read the first paragraph, looking through the HTML format, extracted the text, put it all together in a paragraph, and then we returned the paragraph and used a text-to-speech function to read out the response. Now obviously this works for more things than just sharks. If I run it again, tell me about pencils.
A pencil, /PNSL/, is a writing or drawing implement with a solid pigment core in a protective casing that reduces the risk of core breakage and keeps it from marking the user's hand.
Now as we can see on the pencil Wikipedia page, it's the exact same as the first paragraph. It gives us a nice highlight of what a pencil is, and is a really useful tool for helping us to find out any information we want. Thank you for watching, and I think this project is pretty cool. See you later.